In this, the modern age of internet fandom, sometimes the littlest piece of evidence can send the whole world on a wild goose chase to prove a crazy theory. And something like that just happened, guys. Holy crap, we might be getting Darth Maul in Star Wars Episode 9. We do it for the fans. The past couple of weeks or so, we've been learning more and more. I don't know what that was. I felt like I was channeling another YouTuber. But with all jokes aside, guys, this is a pretty cool video. I'm excited to talk about this, but the evidence for this is pretty thin, admittedly. So consider this just a bonus or silly video that we're doing here, but I mean, there is some evidence to suggest this. I'm gonna talk about why I think it would be very, very cool to have Darth Maul in Star Wars Episode 9. So where did this wild rumor start? Well, it all started when old Ray Park commented on a post on his Instagram. And on this photograph, someone replied, "You're the fittest I've seen in a cool minute. You must be doing some male stuff." And we think that meant Maul stuff, obviously. And then Ray Park replied, "Thumbs up, winky face." I mean, those two combined emojis are practically a confirmation. Maul in Star Wars Episode 9, confirmed!
Is that true?
That's delightful.
Okay, so yeah, that's admittedly pretty thin stuff, but there is actually more evidence to suggest that Maul could come into Star Wars Episode 9, and considering some of the other rumors we've been hearing, it would actually fall in line with a lot of things they're supposedly doing in The Rise of Skywalker. Now, a big deal for The Rise of Skywalker is that it will close up the Skywalker trilogy and unite all of the trilogies together, particularly when it comes to the prequels. Now, I say particularly the prequels because the prequels have by and large been ignored by the sequel trilogy and by Disney Star Wars in general. But that's been ending. I mean, if you've been looking at the way they've been approaching the comic books and the novels, more and more prequel stuff is trickling in, and it just makes sense, right? Particularly if you're bringing back Palpatine, you gotta talk about the prequel era. His rise to the Chancellor and eventually, of course, the Emperor and Order 66, all of that stuff, very, very important to the Skywalker saga. And so we assume there'll be a lot of prequel stuff in The Rise of Skywalker. And there are a couple of different big rumors about how moments from the prequels will be revisited. There's, of course, this rumor of the Flash fights. Now, I have talked about this before, but this is apparently an interesting visual sequence in the film where Kylo Ren and Rey are fighting, and as they are fighting, they're sort of force projected throughout different moments and time throughout the Skywalker saga, throughout all 6 films of the past eras. And apparently they're going to visit a lot of different places. So, maybe some fights with Maul, the Qui-Gon fight on Tatooine, perhaps even training moments with Maul as well. But I'll get into that in just a second. There's another big rumor that Rey's ability to touch objects and have force back visions might come into play, as well as another interesting narrative device to visit moments from the past. Basically, people think that there's going to be a lot of iconic moments from the past that are visited or sort of revisited in The Rise of Skywalker. And there's also a lot of talk about recontextualizing things by finding new pieces of evidence from the past as well. Now, this is exactly why I think Maul could be in the movie and why I think it would be dope if he was in the movie. Maul was one of the very first students of Palpatine as a Sith. He was literally taken as a child and trained as a child. Palpatine and Mother Talzit had some kind of an arrangement. Maul is given to him as this, tool, basically, to be used as a dark side apprentice. Imagine a really interesting scene where a young Darth Maul, or even a young adult Darth Maul, is sitting and getting lessons from Palpatine. Palpatine could be talking about how he wanted to avoid death, what he could do with the secrets of the Force given to him from the dark side. Perhaps there could even be a lesson given us for how to preserve your life when you're really weakened, which could explain how Darth Maul was able to survive after being cut in half. And yeah, if you didn't know that, he totally survives being cut in half in The Phantom Menace. He goes on to get metal legs and become pretty badass in the Star Wars universe. That is why we see him at the end of Solo. He's building up the Syndicate and all of these different things. Yeah, he totally survives being cut in half. Maybe Palpatine showed him how. There could also be discussions of Palpatine wanting to eventually be resurrected and live forever. Perhaps some evidence or something like that is in a scene where Darth Maul is there. Now, this could be really cool and really fan servicey. People love Darth Maul as a character, so a scene with a young Palpatine and a younger Darth Maul talking about the mysteries of the dark side, I think would be really, really cool. Now, the fact that this rumor started because Ray Park looks to be in great shape and doing some Maul training would suggest that there's going to be some combat, some Darth Maul combat in Star Wars Episode 9 if he is indeed in that film. And he could be training with Sidious, which I think would be amazing. If you've ever seen the fight between Sidious and Darth Maul and his brother in Star Wars Rebels, it is legendary. Palpatine is going to town on them boys. And a version of that would be amazing to see in the film. Like maybe you get some of the scenes we just described where Palps is talking about, avoiding death and the secrets of the dark side. And maybe he is telling that lesson as he is also lightsaber training Darth Maul. Wow, would that be hype. Now again, I have to say the evidence for this is pretty thin, but it would actually make sense for him to be in this movie. And the truth is, guys, if you would have told me that Palpatine was being resurrected and coming back in Star Wars Episode 9, before of course it was confirmed, I would have told you that was way crazier than bringing in Darth Maul. So now that that's on the table, I don't think there's anything off the table. They can do whatever they want, and I would love it if they brought Darth Maul into Star Wars Episode 9. And so there it is, the wild rumor that Darth Maul could be in Star Wars Episode 9. What do you think about it? I mean, I know it's pretty thin, but would you like to see it? Do you think there's more evidence that maybe I missed out there? Please let me know your thoughts about Darth Maul being in the Rise of Skywalker in the comment section below. Now let's check the nerd card before we get out of here. I want to know, on what planet did Darth Maul eventually die on? As I always say, I hope you're having an awesome and a nerdy day, and I'll see you in the next video.